Enforcer.
I believe they're called enforcers, Gordon. I sell women's shoes.
And the Stallion.
Stallion, baby! I am not what you would call a handsome man.
I'll kick you in the nuts and you'll smile at me and like it.
Oh, nice! Wow.
We are back with another edition of the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. We are your hosts. He is the Stallion. I am the Enforcer. And we are back as the official podcast of ProWrestling.com, presented to you by the Damage 365 Radio Network.
This is Lanny Poffo, formerly the genius full of glory and renown. You are listening to Damage 365 Radio.
And this week, there's a couple things on the docket. We're going to talk a little bit about Money in the Bank last week. We'll touch on Raw. We'll touch on SmackDown. The big Enzo and Big Cass blow up, if you will. And we will break down tomorrow night's, well, it depends on what day you listen to this, but Ring of Honor Best in the World 2017. Here we are. Yet another week. Lots of traffic last week. Lots of traffic to...
you mean like on the Northern State?
No, on Sunrise, on the way here.
Okay.
Nowhere else. Can't... you know what I should do? We should maybe get a couple of Post-it notes. Maybe that'll help people post things, huh?
Yeah, those are good. The stickies, right? The stickies, the notes, stickies.
Yeah, that wouldn't hurt either. Maybe a can't curse. I'm going to drink this water.
Yeah, you should. I think, let's start with the... Enzo
okay. You're good. Yeah. Some breaking news, if you will.
Well, the Enzo and Cass segment from Monday. Brief background on it, obviously. Those who have been watching Monday Night Raw the last 4 to 6 weeks have seen Enzo Amore and Big Cass get attacked in the backstage area separately. The attacks were not shown. It was only officials and people backstage finding them, beaten up or laid out in the backstage area. So it kind of started a mystery or a whodunit type angle where they were trying to figure out who it might be that was attacking Enzo and Cass. They had the Revival kind of make their return in an on-screen capacity in backstage area a few times to kind of make you think it might be them.
I believe they call that a red herring.
Yes.
Yeah.
They weaved Big Show into the mix for reasons unbeknownst to anybody who watches television.
Yeah, they had nobody else they could have used. They definitely need to use the Big Show.
And they did drop some subtle hints on who kind of leading to who it ended up being. But so this Monday's Raw, the main event segment was centered around Kurt Angle basically vowing to get to the bottom of who was attacking both Enzo Amore and Big Cass. So the reveal at the end was, and with the help of Corey Graves, I'm not really quite sure how he fits into this or managed to get access to backstage footage of security cameras, but he seems to have that type of influence on the people in the company. And it turned... I don't know. Whoa. And it turned out that, in fact, Big Cass was the one who was attacking Enzo Amore backstage. And he then cut a... impassioned promo towards Enzo, kind of blaming him for essentially holding him back and lack of success in the company, and now he kind of wanted to break off and be his own guy, and he was constantly having to defend Enzo and, fight his fights for him, I guess, after Enzo was kind of running his mouth, and he ended up booting him in the face and walking off to end the show. So that was the big reveal of the angle. I have some thoughts on it, but why don't you let me know what you thought of it first before I kind of delve into some of my nonsense.
I think they missed the boat on Enzo and Big Cass a big time, if you will. Those are two guys that, they got themselves over because of their camaraderie, because of their friendship, and, they had a gimmick. It was kind of weak. Do you remember when Enzo came back after the injury, probably 3 or 4 years ago to NXT?
Yeah.
And we were watching it, and you didn't really know who he was beforehand. None of us did. And he came out, and the crowd popped huge in NXT, mind you, and, he cut a promo, and ever since then I was hooked. I was like, man, this guy's hilarious. And, he's serviceable at best in the ring. But, him and Big Cass, they were a good team, and I feel like they kind of dropped the ball by never putting the NXT tag titles on them. And then, again, hit or miss, flippity-floppity, 50-50 booking on Raw since they came up to the main roster. But when they came up to the main roster last year, those guys, they were so over. They got such a great reaction, and they had them lose this week, lose every other week, and they lost any kind of momentum they had, and they never got the titles, which I think is a little bit of a disservice to them. Yeah, Enzo almost died in the ring 34 times, but the guy sells like a son of a gun, and they just made a very good team together. As far as this breakup, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. A lot of it doesn't make sense to me. Raw as a whole hasn't been making too much sense. Like the whole Corey Graves, Kurt Angle thing, they're intertwined, and then at the end of the show, Corey Graves interjects himself in the Enzo and Big Cass thing, but all along Corey Graves hated Enzo, and he wanted somebody to beat the hell out of him, and he always marked out whenever Enzo got hurt and got beat up and got pinned. But now he's defending Enzo in the ring. It was very... I don't know. I think they had the end game, but they didn't know how to get there, and I think that's where a lot of the trouble lied in this angle.
Yeah, so there was a subtle hint that was out there that I didn't pick up on initially. I actually was just sitting around maybe a week or two ago reading through some things online, and the first I think it was the first or second, probably the first attack that happened with Enzo, and he was backstage, and there was a segment where Graves was on commentary, and he kind of made a subtle insinuation that it may have been Cass that attacked him. And I think Cass came out pretty angry and confronted him at the commentary desk. But one of the things that Graves said was, I think after Enzo got attacked, was that he wanted to shake the hand of the individual who took out Enzo. And when Cass came out to confront him after after Graves was kind of insinuating it might be Cass, they ended up shaking hands in that segment, which I didn't pick up on initially, but I ended up seeing it like a week later online, that may have been a hint that Cass was the guy that was attacking Enzo, and it turned out to be the case. Now, the flaws, I guess, that I have in this, or maybe I'm just trying to be too logical about things, is I understand Cass's reasoning for attacking Enzo and not wanting to be in a team with him anymore. I thought that's fine to me, as far as like he thinks he's holding him back and he wants to break out on his own. And he's constantly having to defend him and fight for him. All that stuff. But if that was the case, why did he stage his own attacks 2 weeks in a row? Would be my first question. And then if he felt that way about Enzo and didn't want to deal with him anymore, why not just come right out and attack him or admit to doing it to begin with? Why did he hide it, try to pretend like he was jealous of Big Show, stage his own attacks, and then wait for footage to come out and then admit that he did it? I don't really know how that all fits in together.
I think the staging his own attack was just to, like you said, kind of take the heat off him and make people second guess. But then the whole, I agree with you, everything else you said about the whole getting mad at Big Show thing. And frankly, I don't think in 2017 Big Show and Enzo should be getting a win over Gallows and Anderson, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't think that should be the thing. But I will give the WWE credit. If you go back and watch the segment again, because I watched it twice, by the end of that segment, in June of 2017, the WWE got the crowd to chant for the Big Show. They said, we want Big Show. They wanted somebody to get back at Cass for what he did to Enzo. So I will give him credit in that part, but I do see what you're saying as far as the whole pretending to be jealous thing. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, if you're plotting this,
You're 7 feet tall, Enzo's 5'3", $180, soaking wet. You don't have to attack him from behind,
Yeah, I get that they're trying to make him a bad guy, and that's fine if that's what they want to do and push him in that regard. That's okay. But they should just come right out and be the guy that's attacking him, and then all of a sudden, there was no reason for him to stage his own attacks. I don't know what the purpose of that was, so that seemed a little bit off.
Or maybe once you could, but the double back-to-back weeks.
But yeah, it's like if someone asked him that question, like why, I'd just be curious if they actually followed up on that and asked him what the reasoning would be for doing that. Like, why was he trying to be? Like you said, he shouldn't be afraid of Enzo in any way, shape, or form. So
he said it in the promo. He said that he stage his own attacks to divert people's attention, think it was somebody else. That was his reasoning in the promo, which still doesn't make a lot of sense. And the other issue I take with it is Big Cass is literally 7 feet tall, and there are two different kinds of heels. There are the chicken poop heels that attack people from behind and run around and whatnot and break the rules, and then there are like the Braun Strowman kind of badass heels that are going to tear through the competition. So now, how are you gonna market Big Cass? Because the guy, he's okay on the mic. And listen, I'm not trying to body shame anybody, but did he look a little bit out of shape to you towards the end of that?
He's not in the best of shape. Yes,
and not even in the best of shape, but he's not in the shape he was. He definitely put on a considerable amount of weight, which I thought was strange because he's been on the main roster for so long, unless he's dealing with some kind of injury. But and then, like you said, the Corey Graves thing. What's going on with Corey Graves?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know why all of a sudden they've decided to use him in this role. And I was thinking about that too, because they had Foley as the GM of the show.
Forgot about him
for a long time, or for a while, and then they replaced him with Angle. And I remember the first week that Kurt Angle was on the show. It was, I think, the night after this year's WrestleMania. They did a couple of neat things backstage that were kind of funny with him. I think Enzo and Cass was one segment they did with him where he kind of made some jokes and he was kind of being the goofy Kurt Angle that we saw, maybe 15, 17 years ago on the show. But ever since then, they haven't really done anything with him. He's just been the same, authority figure that's reading, scripted lines for himself on the show. He hasn't really done much that's been funny, and he's just been the same stable character. So if they seem to be putting Graves in all these situations where he's now got this footage, he's interjecting himself in the Enzo and Cass storyline, he's got this storyline with Kurt and whoever is texting him, and they feel more confident in letting Graves talk, why not just let him be the GM then? If that was what they really want to do. I get that they want to have maybe a guy like Angle on the show or Foley on the show for star power.
Credibility, I guess, to get
But, I mean,
that's actually a really good point.
Just
about
let them
Corey
talk.
Graves.
Let them do their thing. You can do funny stuff with Foley. You can do funny stuff with Angle. You can do serious stuff with them. They've shown in the past that they can do that. I mean, I know they're a little older now, but there's no reason why they can't just be themselves and still be funny. I mean, we saw Foley at House of Hardcore a month ago.
He's very sarcastic. He's a dry sarcasm, but
very
people
funny
pop.
dude.
I think Angle stumbled over his lines back-to-back weeks. I think he cut a couple of awkward promos, and I think that's. I don't know if they lost faith in him, but at the end of the day, Angle is very funny, and he doesn't always have to be one or the other. But the thing is, those backstage bits where he was putting up his office and stuff like that, I thought that was really funny. And there were 3 weeks I think so far where he wasn't even at the show. So maybe they need to go in a different direction. I hope it's not going to be Triple H is texting Corey Graves. I hope that's not. Is that what's going to happen, Jeff?
If I was guessing today, that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. But so I thought they ended Raw in a good thing. The only thing that's a little, I think, SmackDown has been giving you a hook for the next week, right? Every single week, every pay-per-view, there's a hook for the next week. I think Raw, to me, if I would have ended the show, I would have ended it on Big Cass booting Enzo and then leaving. And then the next week, the show opens with Big Cass with new music coming out and cutting his promo and explaining why what happened. Now we know. Now we don't need to hear Big Cass talk. Now go along about yourself and be a heel and do your thing. But now it's the cat's out of the bag. And I would have accepted an elbow, a slam and an elbow, a big boot I think was perfect, and then walk off and instead of a good... but he did cut a good promo. That was probably the best I've ever heard Cass on the mic, too, to be honest with you. But I probably would have saved it for next week.
Yeah, I mean, I could have done some sort of an interview or even maybe done a sit-down with him backstage as a follow-up to it. And maybe they still will. I don't know. But, I think there are pluses and minuses to it. Certainly, I guess, I don't know if it matters much... just because I know the NBA Finals and stuff had been on television the weeks prior. Their ratings did go back up for both Raw and SmackDown this week. I don't know if you can attest those to this angle or the SmackDown stuff with the women's Money in the